I'm interviewing Beth Bedee, curriculum specialist at Florida Virtual School. I invited Beth because her work had a direct impact on my teaching practice, particularly in the way she modeled student centered and empathetic curriculum decision making. In this interview, she shares her background, the role of a curriculum specialist, and key factors that contribute to effective online learning. Before I dive into my questions, I want to
Mhm.
share how I even knew of you.
Okay.
So, one of the assignments, I think it's 3.06, has students show that they've learned what different groups of Americans, how they were treated during World War One. And
hmm
it's like from the perspective of German Americans, Jewish Americans, et cetera.
hmm
And when I was teaching, the assignment at the time was students needed to create like social media style post to show that they knew what they experienced. And I had this student who said, Miss Drum, I'm not really comfortable completing this assignment because I don't think it takes into account the seriousness of what these groups faced. And I had never had that happen before. I'd never had a student question an assignment. And so I reached out to my instructional leader and he said something like, "Oh, let me reach out to Beth." And so he connected with you, and you just so quickly created this alternative assignment for her that still met the goals of the content of the curriculum. And I just thought, like, that was I think, the first time that I saw um, curriculum be more student-centered,
hmm
empathetic, and it stood out with me. So when I got this assignment for my graduate program to interview a leader in online education, I was like, this would be a perfect time for me to learn a little bit more about what you do.
Great. Well, that's nice. Um, I I'm just going to use the course that I'm currently working on as an
Okay.
example. So right now we are developing a comprehensive United States history course, which is not being delivered to Florida students because U.S. history in Florida in high school is Civil War to today. So this is all of U.S. history. And we have certain national clients that want to purchase the course. So the role as a curriculum specialist, and I'm sort of the starting point. So my first role is to take a look at the client, and in this case, it's multiple clients, and some of whom we don't even know yet. So we know we've got certain states, and then it could possibly be others. And I know that you think, well, it's the United States history. It's going to go with anybody. Well, certain states have, like Florida calls out certain key points in Florida. So other states do as well. Those are part of
Okay.
their standards. So the first thing you start with is the standards for that particular state. And, it's not like we were starting from scratch. We have the United States history course for the state of Florida. So what I do is to take a look at that, see where the gaps are, create a gap analysis, and then, what can we do to make any existing material that we have work? So the first thing would be a gap analysis based on the standards, because especially if you're selling the product, it's got to be, or it should be 100% aligned to the needs of that client. So the gap analysis, and then I start mapping out the course with a scope and sequence. So what does this look like? Typically, we go with an 8 module course. So where do we, what does it look like to have the span of exploration to present day? What does that look like in an 8 module course when we already have an 8 module course for Florida that is Civil War to
Right.
today? So, I mean, unfortunately, the answer is that you have to cut some of the back end of the course and fill it, so those sorts of decisions, and then not only just like the outline of the course, where does it what and you typically would want a module, just like a chapter in a book, to be they should be equal, or at least, you don't want a 20-page chapter and then 120-page chapter in a book. So it's, they're uniform. Then deciding on how, which assignments are going to be teacher graded, which are written assignments, and which assignments are going to be auto graded quizzes. Are there going to be any projects along the way? Just those sorts of decisions go into it. So once I have that, I create a course architecture, which is just that. It's a framework for all the people on the development team and the decision makers to take a look at and say, okay, this is, these are the things that are inside the scope of the project. Things that are outside of the scope of the project might be custom images or redeveloping a video. So there's just certain things that are within and it's typically going to become down to a monetary budget. And then once that's set in stone, then the content writer, I mean, I do write,
Right.
I am able to. Um, but typically, once it's passed on, then the content writer starts writing. I begin reviewing, fine-tuning, making sure that all the pieces are working together, and then it's passed off to the instructional designer. I feel like, and this might be the creative side, but I know that it's all about content, but to me, the most engaging ones are the most just visually attractive. And
Yeah.
I know that it sounds, like don't judge the book by its cover, but, and it has to have both. But this course that we're working on, and also the one previous, the US history, like I'm in love with the way that it looks. It's like it wants you to just look at it. So the images we've chosen are extremely meaningful. It's not just decorative. The color scheme, all, the look and feel, like all the images, even within the course, they just blend so nicely. The there used to be we used to have the philosophy of not scroll. It should be one scroll. So meaning when the student is on their laptop, we'll just dates ourselves with scroll, right? Um,
Yes.
so there shouldn't be so much content that they have to keep scrolling. And so then what we did is there was content embedded in tabs or accordion tabs
Yeah.
or slideshows, carousels. And then what we found, I mean, it's constantly, because we constantly are getting feedback from students that they're like, listen, you're not fooling us. There's still content there. We don't mind scrolling. So, and then we kind of now we've started putting things on the page. And just, I think putting it or chunking the material in a way that is digestible to the students and just, for instance, even just something as simple as a heading,
Hmm.
a subheading. It it's crazy. When I started working here, I was like, what the heading? The title, that says it. But then I'm like, no, like if it's a different concept, then it's just, for instance, if you were trying to gonna do an old school outline, could the student follow along on that page and know what what they're looking at? Can they come away with it? And back to, as far as meaningful, back to like what you said, like the 306, we had actually quite a few students who had took issue with that. And there are other assignments as well, if you remember probably the 504 Holocaust assignment.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So what we've discovered, and this has become a best practice moving forward, is like we don't want to necessarily make the student put themselves in that perspective because they can never be in that perspective. They've got their own perspective, and we want to offer creativity and we want to offer choice. So
Right.
oftentimes we will provide student choice, choice A or choice B, or in that instance, I think with you it was probably something more just like answer these questions
Right.
or
Right.
I mean, it's not as exciting or interesting,
Yeah.
but it meets the standards. And that doesn't mean that you have to have an alternative assessment for every single assignment. But the problematic ones, what we've done is taken that away. We want the students to understand, be able to digest it, understand it, think that it's worthwhile, engage with it, engage with everything, the text, the images, the captions, the interactives, the videos, all of it.
Speaking with Beth highlighted that strong online learning requires not only accurate, standards aligned content, but thoughtful design that engages students and respects their lived experiences. Thank you for listening.